honestly, these types of people like him, like that guy that we read about the week before, David Wood, Ick. That guy, they should be novelists. We're live. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi man wala. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Safina Society podcast. The Safina Society Nothing But Facts live stream, should say. Okay, got it wrong there. Welcome to the Safina Society Nothing But Facts live stream, where we are going to today read from a wonderful book, okay, that we have been gifted, called Navigating the End of Time by Asrar Rashid. And I have to admit, it's a really nice cover. Okay? Really nice cover. Asrar Rashid. And we're going to read today, and we're going to stir the pot a little bit, and we're going to poke the bear. And we're going to read about Imran Hosein's theory. That Muhammad al-Fatih is a Dajjalic stooge, and that we should all be supporting Vladimir Putin and the Russian Orthodox Church. Okay? So how did we get there? All right? It's ajab. Okay, Gog and Magog, already they're out, he says. Okay, they're already out. Some of you may be from them too. Okay, if you are a white person from the West, and we'll see. Okay, so we'll see why he says all these things and why we think that they're crazy ideas and they're ultimately incorrect. Let's put it that way. The common man says it's a crazy idea, but if we're supposed to be scholarly and all that, then we'll say it's simply incorrect. We'll now turn to what we said we're going to talk about, which is Imran Hosein. Imran Hosein, what has possessed you to speak ill of somebody, the entire ummah? What has possessed you to speak ill of somebody, the entire ummah? Not some people, the whole ummah. Okay? Okay. Has recognized as somebody who is prophesied in the hadith. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, "Ni'am al-jaysh wa ni'am amiru dhalik al-jaysh." Okay, blessed is this army, and blessed is the emir of this army. Okay? And you're coming now here and saying bad things about him. Let's see what Sheikh Asrar, how he responds. So what are we reading for? We're reading from, I like this company a lot. Rijl Publishing. Let's see what they say. Okay. Fallacies. The many fallacies found within the Mahdi or Kashf pretenders who unwittingly misguide unwary followers, okay, should be understood. What is he talking about? Saying that Imam al-Mahdi is somebody who is prophesied, will come at the end of time and will reunify the ummah, okay, and will unite many nations of the ummah, okay. Some claim to have a correct methodology in understanding Islamic eschatology. Eschatology is the study of the end times, but make absurd conclusions based on faulty reasoning. The following is a list of some of the faulty reasoning and methodology used by such people. They misinterpret sound hadiths. They ignore other hadiths. They rush to interpret current events according to hadiths, okay, that of things that prophecies. They hurry to usher in the end of time. Like they want the end of time to be like now, so they reinterpret everything to that, to fit that. They mix unsubstantiated theories, commonly known as conspiracy theories, with hadiths. Okay, they make false predictions as a result of that. They mix misunderstandings of hadith, okay, and they take other forecasts as facts, and they build their theories on the predictions or forecasts of other political pundits or whatever, making false claims with regard to magic, jinn, and medicine and other branches of knowledge. So we need to scrutinize all this. Okay, let's take an example. In 1987, Adnan Okhtar, who was discussed earlier. I think Adnan Okhtar is, what's his name? The Harun Yahya. I think it's Harun Yahya, right? The famous author Harun Yahya. He has a lot of good books, but he has some other loony ideas. And he has a very strange presentation. Did you ever see his talk show? You've seen it, right? his talk show, it's like, wait a second, is this Islamic? No one's dressed. The hostess, miniskirts, right? Sleeveless. It's like, wait a second, wait, what is going on? How is this Harun Yahya? This is not even an Islamic show, right? It's the weirdest, this bizarrest thing. And he comes looking like Hollywood, right? He's got this Hollywood vibe about him. Anyway.
First thing when you look him up,
yeah?
he's a Turkish cult leader.
A cult leader, yeah. Crazy.
Someone on the BBC says there was some English journalist who went there.
Yeah.
And like undercover camera hidden and stuff. She
Unreal.
and she said she couldn't even believe it.
Wow.
She
Wow.
was
Wow. Well, he said he interpreted AIDS as being the beast of the earth. Dabbat al-ard. The Prophet ﷺ said the earth will produce a beast at the end of time. Okay, an animal that we haven't seen before. Why is that so hard to believe? Like, do you think we've seen everything? Right? Even if we have, do you think Allah can't create something new? For someone whose mind is on the Creator, all this is possible and easy. Okay? And we've seen in our own lifetime things that you would have said impossible. But we've seen it happen. We have 8 billion people in the world. And for a good 6 months, no one left their home. Right? All activity ceased. For a good 6 months. And then for another 6 months, it was a little bit. People were out. Okay? And then at the last 6 months, there was like COVID. Everyone was going out, but with COVID protocols. And then that was it. So I think COVID, you could safely assume it was an 18-month period in 3 phases. Okay? Unless you're a doctor. You were out there fighting. You were? You were there?
Yeah.
Wow. SubhanAllah. Not pretty at all. So if you look at this, a lot of things happen that you never imagined would have happened, right? So why is this stuff hard to believe? But anyway, he says that the Dabat al-Ard was the AIDS virus. Absurd, of course. The Saudi A'id al-Qarni and Imran Hosein, they said Dabat al-Ard, it's Israel. Okay? Everything Israel. Just throw easy layup. Okay? Easy layup. Okay? People are going to like you in our ummah. Just blame everything on it. Later, he changed his mind. He said, nope. Guess what Imran Hosein said Dabat al-Ard is?
China?
No. Guess?
USA? Like the Britain?
USA, Britain, China? Huh?
Pax Britannica says.
No, Pax Britannica, no. He said it's the mobile phone. Dabbat al-Ard is the mobile. Why don't you just say there's a lot of harm from the mobile phone? Why do you have to go off on a limb that's absurd like this? And why would the Prophet, peace be upon him, who is describing things that are very hard for people to believe, right? Because you've never seen it before. Why would he use an allegory that's equally hard to believe, right? It's not like the Prophet ﷺ said, a very bad thing will come out. Then you could say, okay, maybe it's the phone. He's telling you it's an animal that's covered with hair on one side, covered the hair on the other side. He's basically telling you, this is so hard to believe, I'm going to give you the details. Then these people are saying, no, that's an allegory. Well, why would the allegory be? Allegory is supposed to be easy to understand, right? Allegory is not supposed to be equally hard or equally something you haven't seen before. If the Prophet wanted to describe something, he would describe it as it is. All right? If he wanted to describe phones, he would have just described it as it is. Next. Dabbat al-Ard is in fact an actual biological creature, living creature that appears after many other major signs of the end of time. Okay? So many things will happen, human beings will say, forget predicting anything. Everything's unpredictable. Every day we're seeing something we've never seen before. Okay? To identify Dabbat al-Ard as Israel or AIDS or the mobile phone ignores the fact that this particular sign will only occur after the descent and the subsequent passing of Sayyidina Isa ibn Maryam. Okay? And the fact that this creature will first appear at Mount Safa in Mecca, along with many other details outlined in the hadith. So here he brings an example of ignoring other hadith about Dabbat al-Ard. Ignoring that the beast of the earth comes after Prophet Isa. Lives and dies. Okay? In another hadith, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ praised the virtue of the group of Muslims who would raid the White Palace, Al-Qasr al-Abyad. He gave a khutbah about that recently, and it has to do with the Prophet ﷺ said to Adi bin Hatim, you will come a time, you will see this ummah opening, conquering the White Palaces of Babel. Okay? A reference to the palace containing the Persian throne. This place was raided during the reign of Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, Okay. However, in the late 2000s, I attended a lecture delivered in the Alam Rock area of Birmingham under the auspices of Al-Muhajirun of Omar Bakri. Okay, a political cult that believes in its prerogative is to establish the Khilafah at 10 Downing Street in London. Okay, the lecture was delivered by Anjem Chowdhury, who during the course of his lecture claimed that Al-Qasr al-Abyad is actually the White House in Washington, D.C. When the Prophet ﷺ said in the clear hadith that it's in Babel. Right? And he told Adi, it's likely that you will see it. That means it's very close to Adi bin Hatim's time. Not way later like this. Afterwards, at the end of the lecture, I raised the matter with Chaudhry, and I corrected him. He responded, the hadith that I cited from Sahih Muslim was weak. Right? Because he doesn't like it, so he now makes that hadith of Sahih Muslim weak. Okay? And the correct version was the one that he mentioned in his lecture. Despite pointing out to him that the prophetic narrations found in Sahih Muslim are not deemed weak by any Sunni scholars, Chaudhry did not retract his claim and instead insisted that the hadith foretold a raid of the White House in the United States. Fantasyland. Fantasyland. I would love to have seen Anjem Chowdhury and Sheikh Asrar Rashid debate. You know about Anjem Chowdhury?
Just have to look him up.
Yeah. Anjem Chowdhury, he's part of a group called the Muhajirun. They believe in the Khilafah. And he was going on Fox News, and to me, they were bringing him almost as the caricature of, astaghfirullah, not to offend the brother, but like the crazy ideas, right?
Still around? Is he like
I think he's still active, yeah. Not as active, but I think. Sean Hannity loved him, in the sense of, you fit perfectly the caricature that I want.
the crazy Muslim?
Yeah, exactly. And so he used to always go on Fox News and talk his talk. Such misinterpretations of a hadith occur around political events when people feel the need to ascribe an individual or current disaster, right, to a prophetic description. Okay, in a hadith recorded by Imam Abu Dawood and others, the Prophet ﷺ foretold the destruction of the Kaaba towards the end of time at the hands of the African leader, described as the one having two thin legs, Dhul Suwayqatayn. This leader will only appear after the time of Sayyidina Isa. After Sayyidina Isa has passed away, right? When the believers, the believers are all passing away. And after Gog and Magog, after Dajjal, after the Mahdi, all these signs will only be, for those who lived a long life after Sayyidina Isa bin Maryam. Okay? This African leader is described as someone who will climb on top of the Kaaba and destroy it brick by brick with a pickaxe, and he will steal the treasure of the Kaaba. Treasure of the Kaaba is a reference to the golden water pipe which is attached to the roof of the Kaaba above the semicircular area known as the Hatim. So he wants to steal that golden water pipe. All right? So apparently there's such poverty will exist that he wants to go up there and take it. Okay? Just that piece of gold right there. The hadith pertaining to the occurrence of such an event is very clear. Okay? Both the event and the individual will be after the Dajjal. It is also clear that this individual will appear as a ruler from Africa. After all, Muslims have passed away from the earth and Islam has been raised. Okay? There will be no believers anymore on the earth. Yet there are people who cite this particular hadith. Oh my gosh. You're not going to believe this. What do you think?
I don't want to take a guess. I don't know.
Yet there are people who cited this hadith in 2009 after the election of President Obama. And they said, be careful, he's going to destroy the Kaaba. Oh my gosh. Serious comedy. Serious. La La Land here, people. La La Land. Serious La La Land. The second. You guys not even been to Africa 2 times, right?
Hawaiian dad.
Unbelievable. Guys, Hawaiian, Chicago, whatever. Where's Africa in this? SubhanAllah.
He's kind of skinny though, right?
SubhanAllah. The second fallacy and flawed methodological practice I mentioned earlier is that of taking one hadith in isolation and ignoring all the other numerous. See, when you do an interpretation, you have to bring all the texts and sew it together in a way that makes sense with all the texts and does not contradict the language of the text, does not contradict any other stronger text. Okay, that's what a correct interpretation is. Okay, like all this about Jummah, if Allah and His Messenger haven't specified something, then mujtahids will decide, right, based on their ijtihad, their judgment. How many people? When do we do Jummah? How many, what distance? But it can't contradict something else, right? So these people are far off, all right? But they are providing the Ummah with some comedy here, to be honest with you. Such an epistemological error is a common phenomenon for the self-proclaimed eschatologist Imran Hosein. Hosein seems to limit his analysis of geopolitical events to interpretations given on a few pivotal events in the Quran and the Sunnah. Hosein's methodology focuses on the fact that Russia is Ar-Rum. Where did he get that? That Ar-Rum mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah, it's Russia. And that Muslims will form an alliance with Russia against the Zionist Christians of Western Europe and America. Secondly, Hosein theorizes that the barrier of Gog and Magog, constructed by Dhul Qarnayn, okay, which according to him was located in the Caucasus Mountains, the Darial Gorge, can someone look that up? He said it was already breached in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and yet Ya'juj and Ma'juj already came out from behind the barrier. His epistemology involves looking first at the Quran for a correct interpretation of events, then to the Sunnah afterwards, a method similar to that of the Hanafi jurisprudence in legal theory, usul al-fiqh. However, there is a major distinction between the two ostensibly similar methods, and that is that Hanafi legal theorists study all the hadith on a subject and seek compatibility and synthesis of the overall meaning. If this becomes a difficult task, they adopt only the hadith that coincide with the Quranic meaning and find other ahadith that support that meaning. Imran Hosein, on the other hand, is far from Hanafi usul. He has nothing to do with Hanafi usul. Okay? Just happens to be similar. First, he interprets the Quranic verses in accordance with his theory, then misquotes or partially quotes or completely discards a hadith on the same subject that go against his theory. An example of this is his interpreting Rum today as being exclusively Russia, viewing it as he does as the true inheritor of the Tsar and the Eastern Orthodox Church. He bases this view on the description of a group of Christians praising the Quran for their sincerity, as opposed to another group of Christians who are condemned in the Quran. Similarly, Muslims are warned about a group of Christians that align themselves with the Jews. Okay? Imran Hosein identifies the latter group in a condemnation of Western Christianity. The Christians aligned with the Jews. Okay? That includes Catholics and Protestants of Western Europe, the United States, the Anglosphere in general. The Christians praised in the Quran, on the other hand, according to Hosein, are the Greek Orthodox Christians, which Hosein says this will be the group that the Mahdi will enter into an alliance with at the end of time. The problem with this theory is that we only learn of such an alliance preceding the great slaughter through hadith, okay? Which also happened to state that despite the initial accord, the relationship with Rome will be treacherous and the alliance will be violated, after which the Muslims will conquer Constantinople. Okay. This leads to another internal contradiction in Imran Hosein's theory, which is that he believes that the Muslims must return to Constantinople or Istanbul. They must return it to the Greek Orthodox Christians personified today by modern Russia and ruled by Vladimir Putin. As a result of this, the Muslims must return the Hagia Sophia Cathedral to them with heartfelt apologies. He also states that Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih, the conqueror of Constantinople, was a usurper, and that the Ottoman Khalifa is a Dajjalic stooge, merely posing as an Islamic caliphate. Hossein's earlier discourses did not express such sentiments regarding the Ottomans. Okay? However, in the past decade, from the time of writing this, his stance on the Ottoman Caliphate has changed. If the avid listener to Imran Hossein's lecture was to check the ahadith on the alliance with Rome, in the end of times they would find that Hossein indeed quotes the hadith, but only part of it, and he rejects other parts of the very same hadith. Every hadith that mentions the alliance between the Rum and the end of time also states that they will break the alliance, and that later a great slaughter will ensue between the Muslims and the Rum. Okay? To go into more details, Imran Hosein insists on identifying Rum with Russia and ignores the passage relating to the treachery of Rum. Hosein avoids citing the entire hadith. Never does. And he claims that Russia being Rum comes from the Quran. He is not able to substantiate any of this. Okay? That is, the end time alliance will result in the conquering of Constantinople, but it does not quote the hadith in its entirety. Now, here's his problem. He believes that end of time we're going to conquer Constantinople. But we know that Constantinople, Istanbul, has already been conquered. So he has to nullify that conquest thereby removing from Islam about 700 years of Muslims, more maybe. When was it, 1500? Maybe 600 years of Muslims, yeah? So that it can be reconquered, to fit his theory. Well, what do we say about that? We say that a conquest of something is not only by arms. A Muslim can conquer a Muslim land peacefully by going there with their army. And what does the hadith say? That the Mahdi will arrive at the army at the edge of Constantinople. When they hear the takbir, they will give up and they will join him. What does that mean? That means they recognize takbir. They know what it is, they like it, and they have an affinity to it. As soon as they heard the takbir, that means that initially they'll be against Imam al-Mahdi. He will march towards them. As soon as they realize, oh, he's actually coming, they'll join them. That's a fath. Fath doesn't have to come with war. Okay? Hussein also believes that the Muslims and the Russian Orthodox Christians will go to war against Europe and the USA, whom he designated as ungodly allies of the Zionist Jews. This looming war, according to Hussein, is the actual Armageddon mentioned in the New Testament and in the Hadith. However, as already noted, this interpretation ignores the fact that the Rum will be duplicitous, and that Al-Malham Al-Kubra, the great slaughter, literally, will be the war between Muslims and their former allies, Ar-Rum. Okay? And this will consequently lead to the conquest of Constantinople. Okay? Some hadith scholars have stated that the fact Constantinople will be reconquered after having been conquered in the time of Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih demonstrate that a power inimical to Islam will be ruling the city in the end of times. That means Constantinople will be absorbed by something outside of Islam. This is not impossible, as Constantinople, Istanbul today, was ruled by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk and other secularists in recent times. Ataturk, of course, is someone who is an enemy of Islam. So, if someone was to come in and take it from the person like him, it's a type of conquest. So, Al-Malham Al-Kubra, the great slaughter that was going to occur at the end of time, is between the Europeans and the Muslims. Europe is not going to go down without a fight. It doesn't necessarily mean the Americans will be part of that. It doesn't necessarily mean all the European countries will be part of that. But the vast majority of those nations and those lands will not peacefully submit to Islam. It will go. Whenever you have a power, there's a theory out there in history. I don't know if you guys know about this theory. The name of the theory, off the top of my head, I can't remember. It's got some kind of a Latin name. But it's a commonsensical theory that states that there is no power that is threatened by a rising power, except that they must have a massive conflict before the rising power overtakes the current power. Theodosiphus theory or something. So that's the theory. Okay, that there can never be a replacement of power except after a conflict. You never have a great power simply cede itself to the next power. Right? And that's exactly what's going to happen. So Europe now, Western Europe and America, the Anglosphere, that's the power of the world, right? No one really doubts that. Well, Islam is going to rise up through the Al-Imam al-Mahdi. There will be an alliance between the two for a time being until the Rum breaks that alliance. And once they break that alliance, then what they do to the Muslims will be unspeakable. Which you can fathom too, because they have the arms. They have the weaponry. They have the ability. Okay. That's the meaning of all that. So he really wants to go and put Russia as his friends and allies. Well, you're not reading the rest of the hadith. A corollary to Hussein's argument is that the USA, UK, and European leadership that may be termed the deep state are in fact Gog and Magog. Why would the Prophet warn us about Gog and Magog when we can't ever see them? When they're hidden in front of everybody? Like, what was the point of warning us about them? He believes this explains why Western Christianity, both Catholic and Protestant churches, have been corrupted by this oligarchy. The strongest proof that Western civilization is Gog and Magog, according to Hussein, comes from the Quran, which according to his interpretation informs us of the return of the Jews to Jerusalem only after Gog and Magog have been released from behind the barrier of Dhul Qarnayn. Hosein cites the verse as, it is impossible for a society which we have destroyed to ever rise again until after Gog and Magog have broken loose, swarming down from every hill, ushering in the true promise. Then, behold, the disbelievers will stare in horror, crying, "Oh, woe to us! We have truly been heedless of this. Worse, we have been wrongdoers." While traditional commentators on the Quran take these verses at face value, as meaning that people in any town that have been destroyed and punished will not be resurrected until after Gog and Magog have been released, just before the judgment day. Hosein claims otherwise. He argues that the word town is specific to Jerusalem, and people referred to in the verse are the Israelites. Thus, the verse should be interpreted as the Israelites will not return to their town, Jerusalem, until Gog and Magog have been released. Therefore, the fact that Israel exists means Gog and Magog already have been released. To support his claim, he has no concept of qat'i and dhanni, right? He takes a possible reading of something and makes it the theory. Okay. To support his claim, Hosein cites the story of Uzair in Surah Al-Baqarah, in which Qarya, in the indefinite, can only refer to Jerusalem, or consider him, by way of example, who passed by a town, and it was Jerusalem, that had fallen upon itself. He exclaimed, "How will Allah restore life now that it is now done?" Okay, and it referred to Jerusalem. Hosein claims that the town here is definitely Jerusalem by analyzing the verse from Surah Al-Anbiya. He claims that it is also a decisive reference to the return of the Jews to Jerusalem. This, he says, was fulfilled when Britain declared the Jewish homeland of the Balfour Declaration. This would mean that the creation of Israel and the return of the Jewish people to Jerusalem implicates the British elite as being Gog and Magog. Okay. Hosein goes on to assert that the current phenomenon of globalization is the result of the release of Gog and Magog. This interpretation of the verse of Surah Al-Anbiya will be discussed further when elaborating on Gog and Magog and the location of the barrier of Dhul Qarnayn. That's his section on that. And next he talks about people who talk about the unseen based upon dreams and mukashafat. Okay, and I think that he hasn't... this book was published before the person such as that Muhammad Dreams fellow who's all over the internet, you know, before him. You guys know about him, right? Okay, in Pakistan there's a man, I think he's a miskeen to be honest with you, but I thought it was serious in the beginning. I thought it was something real. So I actually read some of the articles and it didn't take me long to realize that he's miskeen. And he theorizes about the unseen, or about the future, all based on his dreams. And he now has thousands of bots posting on every Islamic thread on Twitter. I wouldn't know because I'm moving away a little bit from going so much on social media. But I will be posting stuff. So, really interesting stuff, isn't it? But this theory is so far off and so off the map that it can't be taken seriously. And I wonder how many times these individuals have to be proven wrong in order to stop. And I'll tell you, ultimately, the most important thing is let's go to the ibrah, the real ibrah, or the real lesson, or the real proof of something is in the followers. Just go to the people who watch these Imran Hosein videos day in and day out. Okay, there's no increase in like piety and righteousness. The increase in their benefit or da'wah or teaching kids Quran or doing da'wah to people or actually gaining real knowledge. All they have, these guys, is constant, non-stop conspiracy theories. And they all want to leave. I want to leave my family. I want to leave everyone. Everything's doomed. We're all doomed. I just want to go somewhere. I had to talk to one time my brother. He said, "Khalas, we're done with. It's all done with. There's no point." Right? And I'm like, "What are you talking about? You have a family. You have 2 kids." He's like, "Khalas." What do you mean, khalas? Right? Khalas, right? It's done with. As if that you have the game clock in front of you and deemed the game to be over. So I said, "What are you going to do?" He said, "I'm going to move to Saudi." Okay? I'm like, that is actually the theater of the first battle of Imam al-Mahdi. That's where it's going to happen. That's the arena. That's the front row of the conflict. Okay? And you think you can watch Imran Hosein videos in Saudi? You think that can be given? He said, "Oh, then he came later." He said, "No, we're getting farms in Malaysia." What? Yeah.
So in layman circles, sometimes people talk like, this is from the signs of the hour. You know, the buildings are, the shepherds
Yeah.
are building buildings, the diseases are spreading, things like this. Is it bad for laymen to talk about these eschatology, these subjects, like just casually, and they're talking like, oh, this is a sign.
As long as it's true. As long as it's a fact. Right? If it's factual. If it does have a... like, for example, when people see fasad and fisq, and they say, oh, this is the end of time. Really the end of time. I think it's an expression that refers to things have gotten worse than they ever were before. And we could be in the end of time in general. Like, in general, we're in the end of time. But to make theories that end up contradicting other ahadith is the problem. Discarding hadith. Or actually specifying an individual or a country or a land. Right? Yeah, when Allah knows best. And whenever people worry about Al-Mahdi and Sayyidina Isa and Dajjal, I always say, why do I have to worry about this, right? When I have shuyukh, I have elders. They're all there. One voice note. Sheikh. And sometimes the big senior scholars, you can't always reach them, but you can reach their attendants, their attendees, their drivers, their cousins. Hey, what did the Sheikh say about this? That's it. Discussion over. If I don't issue a fatwa on food ingredients for myself, right? A new ingredient in food, I don't issue the fatwa for myself. I got the fatwa from the shuyukh. You're going to come on the big issue of the Dajjal and try to be the mujtahid yourself? By the way, to say someone is the Dajjal, someone is Ya'juj and Ma'juj, that's a fatwa, right? It is bimanzilat al-fatwa. It's a fatwa. Because if someone comes and says this meat is halal, that's a fatwa. You are saying that it was slaughtered according to the Sharia. That's a fatwa, right? So if we don't give fatwa unless we're absolutely certain on matters. And if it's a totally new matter, we go to the mujtahid fi nazila on these things. Are we going to now rely upon ourselves when it comes to the biggest issue of our lifetime? If the Dajjal comes, that's the biggest thing that's ever going to happen in your lifetime as an ummah. Nothing bigger is going to happen because your Jannah and Nar is all based on this political position. It's a political position and a religious position in one, right? And Sayyidina Isa and Imam al-Mahdi is going to come and you're going to be first. He's going to come first and that's going to be your first test. So we're not going to rely just upon ourselves. We have shuyukh and we think that Allah is going to that the people, the shuyukh, all the shuyukh will be misguided. That's not true either. All right, let's take comments and questions now from Instagram. The camera keeps going in and out of focus according to one speaker here. Is that because I'm moving back and forth? Yeah, the moment if you keep moving, I keep moving the mic and the camera will then adjust with that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Turquoise is really upset on on YouTube. Why are you spreading blank? I'm not going to say stupid statements. Hudhaifa says it's the Thucydides trap. Yes, the Thucydides trap, which is the idea that you will never have a power replacing another power except after a major conflict between the two of them. Okay? All right. Atiq Rahman, I believe he's out of Philly, if he's the same Atiq. This book, is Navigating the End Time by Asrar Rashid. It's a book that is only about 350 pages. The text is really easy to read, and I plan to read this book, inshallah, and read from it in the stream. Anything I can't read for myself, I end up just read it to everybody here in the stream. Ibn Sulaiman says, is not the ruler that destroys the Kaaba from Abyssinia? Obama was from Kenya. It makes no sense. I guess for him, all of East Africa is one. Chocolate Walla is besides himself, okay, that he said it's Obama. Whatever happened to Anjum Chaudhry? Who knows? Why don't you look him up, see if he has any latest YouTube videos. Chocolate Walla says, he puts it really well. His problem, meaning all these preachers of end times this and end times that, and Imran Hosein specifically, says he takes mutashabihat, or at least dhanniyat. They're either mutashabih or dhanni. At the very least, you could say they're dhanni and be safe. Dhanni, meaning you don't know exactly who it's talking about. Right? And he makes it muhkam. And then he takes the muhkam, which doesn't fit his theory, and renders it mutashabih. And he takes the am and makes it khas, and then takes the khas and makes it am. The general statement, general word, he makes it specific. Specific word, he makes it general. Okay?